Fresh expression of church is a church for our culture that changes, where people see a need and go to a different group outside the church and sit and listen and form a new community. And in that new community, disciples grow, and that new community begins to worship. It takes time to grow, it takes love, it takes perseverance, but there's nothing quite like seeing a new Christian community form. It's a very good question, how we can call things churches which don't particularly look like churches. And I think to answer it, you have to ask the question, what is a church? And to go back to the Bible and do some digging and discover, for me, a Christian community, a church, is what Jesus called the disciples to be. Jesus called the disciples to be with him and to be sent out. So a Christian church is a group of people who come together to be with Jesus and go out and serve God in the whole of their lives. And once you have that kind of definition, then it's easy to discern church in many different places and contexts. You have people meeting with the risen Christ and exploring and deepening that relationship with each other. Those are the essential things, and some of the things that we think of as church, wooden benches, stone buildings, someone in robes at the front, become less important. I think it's very easy when the church is anxious for a whole lot of people to feel neglected. If you mention fresh expressions in one breath and don't mention the inherited church at the same time, one or other group feels overlooked. But in terms of resources, it's very important to see that the vast majority of the Christian resource is going into what we call inherited church at the present time. It's only a tiny proportion being invested in fresh expressions of church. But unless we invest in the church of the future, how are we going to see the new things grow? It's fascinating where we're seeing growth in the Church of England at the present time. On the one hand, it's in our cathedral congregations, which are growing significantly. On the other hand, it's in fresh expressions of church. Our midweek congregations overall have grown by 40% in the last 5 years. Very, very significant. And both cathedrals and fresh expressions are 7-day-a-week enterprises. It's not just church on Sunday mornings anymore. You say it's very new to you in Canada, but actually this is not a new movement. The church has been doing this kind of thing since the time of the apostles, especially in times of cultural change. And you've been doing this in Canada for a long time as well. It's kind of the language that's new and the need that is more focused now. But I would say with any new thing, it's not the outward branding or badging that makes a difference. It's the inner changes of heart. And the changes of heart needed here are towards mission, compassion for people who do not know Christ, a desire to form new communities from those who are right outside the reach of the church, and a dedication over a lifetime to form these new communities and see them grow. To go down this missional road, the kind of leadership a church needs is a leadership which is prepared to take risks, a leadership which has a vision of Jesus Christ, a leadership which is prepared to trust others, a leadership which is prepared to see new things grow, and which will commit itself to the investment and prayer and love and work required. It can often feel for the church today that we are lost and wandering through unfamiliar territory. We have some sketch maps to guide us, and we have the experience of the past, and that's all really helpful. But I find when I'm lost in the fog, I need more than a map when I can't see the terrain. I need a compass. And we need to find again the compass for the life of the church. And that compass is the life and the character and person of Jesus Christ. We need to be a Jesus-shaped, a Christ-centered church, as well as a mission-shaped church. They look like all kinds of different things, actually, and we're in a situation where lots of flowers are blooming. And as in any garden, some of them will be trees and grow to a great height and last for a long time, God willing, and some will be flowers that bloom for a season and then fade away. So in the Diocese of Sheffield, we've got some very substantial church plants and fresh expressions growing, which are really exciting and interesting, which are among the largest churches already in the country, and I'm sure will become much larger over the next 10 years. Missional communities of young adults. We also have scores of new communities growing, started by local parishes, just ordinary communities meeting on a Thursday afternoon for this or that group of people to explore spirituality. Every so often when I'm driving around Sheffield, I'll see one of our parish churches has put up a sign outside advertising a new kind of service on a Wednesday afternoon or a Friday morning. And they won't have told me or anybody, they're just getting on with it. It's a new fresh expression of church beginning. It's fantastic to see the variety and the creativity among the people of God. Do you have to do all this yourself as a rector? No, of course not. You can't. God gives many gifts to his church, the body of Christ, in lots of different ways. And one of the wonderful things about these fresh expressions of church is that they are calling out many different gifts from among God's people. And actually, nor does it mean that the people who are already doing everything in the church get to do even more, because the kinds of people who are longing to do fresh expressions of church are exactly not the people who are already doing everything in the life of the church. They're the people who have a thirst and a hunger and a desire to do stuff outside the church and to form new communities. So by and large, these new communities are calling out different gifts and fresh energy, not putting more on the same people. Well, a person can't start a fresh expression by themselves. That's the first thing. You've absolutely got to be part of a team and a small group of people working at this together. So the first requirement is a person who can work with other people and work with other people really well. In your team, you need a mix. But in that mix, there have to be evangelists, there have to be entrepreneurs, there have to be people who enjoy going beyond the frontiers, there have to be people who commit to each other and learn together, who offer wise leadership, who know where to look for support, and above all, who are humble and will go and serve and learn as they can. It needs to be training that happens on the job, actually. You can't go on a 3-year course in advance of doing a fresh expression of church. You need to be learning as you go. It's a bit of preparation you can do together. But the best training on offer, absolutely, I'd commend the Mission Shaped Ministry course, which is now being developed by Fresh Expressions Canada. If you and your team are looking for the right kind of training to prepare you for your fresh expression, then sign up to that course today. If you go back to the garden analogy again, not every plant in a garden lasts forever. Not every kind of tree lasts the same length of time. In an ecology of church life, we need some things which are strong and permanent and there for hundreds of years. In the Diocese of Sheffield, since I became bishop, I've presided at 2 900th anniversaries of parish churches. That's a considerable history there. But we also need communities which are going to be, you know, for that moment and that time, for a generation of young people, for a particular group of young adults as they grow up together, for a community of elderly people who've retired at the same time and need to explore faith together. These groups need to be existing symbiotically with parish churches, and actually it's where the fresh expression of church needs the inherited to give real stability. One is very fluid and can respond to the changing needs and circumstances. The other is much more permanent from generation to generation. The whole Church of God is a wonderful creation and a wonderful body of Christ throughout the world. There's loads of scope for variety and creativity within that mix.